November the 15th. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. Now, new data is revealing that illegal guns are easy to come by here in Barbados, and there's a lucrative market for the supply of illegal firearms on the island. These findings are contained in a report done by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, revealed last night on the People's Business. Speaking on the topic fighting crime using research, the unit's director, Cheryl Willoughby, gave some details of a preliminary report on the nature of gun violence in Barbados. Here's what she had to say.
This is one of the research projects that we would have done over the past 2 years or so, where we examine not only gun-related incidents of crime, but also we looked at homicides that were perpetrated as a result of gun violence. And what we found was that, as you rightly said, Shane, guns are easily available in our communities. We found that most of the perpetrators are young men between 20 and 29 years old, as well as the victims of these gun-related murders.
The director also highlighted a disturbing trend about the individuals who are the main perpetrators of gun crime.
What we are finding is that the demographics are similar. There are the young people who have left school at an early age without obtaining certification. They have no skills. There are the young people who are experiencing serious problems within their families as it relates to guidance and discipline, etc. And there are young people who were identified from early within the school system who did not receive the necessary interventions that would have turned them away from a life of crime.
Now, at the same time, we're hearing that gun crime is on the decline in Barbados. However, lawmen are still reporting that the number of gun-related offenses is still well over 200 for the year and counting. Police Assistant Superintendent Mark White gave those details last night on the People's Business.
So far this year, we've had 206 gun-related crimes as compared to 381 last year. So we see that the strategies are working, and we've covered, 49 guns so far, 700 rounds of ammunition. So the interdiction efforts are bearing fruit.
The assistant superintendent also revealed that lawmen have removed close to 500 guns and over 9,200 rounds of ammunition off the streets over the last 5 years.
You can look from the year 2016 up to September 2021, and we've been able to recover 483 guns off the streets and 9,246 rounds of ammunition. So there's a clear indication that guns are out there, and we just developed some strategies how to combat it in violence, and we see that it's a very good fruit, and we really, again, thank the public for giving us the information that we can recover these guns off the streets.
Assistant Superintendent of Police Mark White there speaking on the People's Business. We'll take a break here and come back with those COVID-19 updates. COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 3 more Barbadians. The deceased include an 80-year-old female and an 84-year-old male who passed away on Saturday at the Blackman and Gollop Isolation Facility. A 64-year-old male, meanwhile, passed away at Harrison's Point Isolation Facility yesterday. They were all unvaccinated. Their deaths bring to 194 the total number of people who have passed away from COVID-19 so far here in Barbados. Meanwhile, 80 males and 136 females make up the 216 new cases of COVID-19 recorded here in Barbados on Saturday. The new positives were among the 1,446 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. Of the new cases, 43 individuals were under the age of 18. The number of people in isolation facilities now stands at 975, and those in home isolation account for 7,365 people. The PSV sector has welcomed the announced changes by government to the island's curfew times. As of today, the beginning of the curfew hours moves from 9 p.m. to midnight. The Alliance of Owners of Public Transport hopes it redounds to the benefit of players in the industry. Communications Information Marketing Officer Mark Haynes says the previous curfew placed further burden on the sector.
Given the fact that persons would be off the road, and therefore it would make no sense for the vehicles to play their various routes. But we hope that this really continues, and that we hope that there's full normality as the government sees it.
International reports reveal the Bahamas may have had a bad batch of rapid antigen tests. The country's Minister of Health, Dr. Michael Darville, says the matter is being investigated.
I think they were from India. They were not the Abbott tests. I think it's bio. I can't remember the name of the test, but they are one of the tests that are approved by our national lab. To our understanding, some of those particular tests were located, but we are still investigating to ensure that they are not a part of creating an effect on our database to know where we are with COVID.
The matter of utmost importance, according to Dr. Darville, not just for the obvious, but also due to what could be described now as a drastic reduction in new cases. He says the government is not letting their guard down.
We cannot take things for granted.
Over in Bermuda, with recent in-school coronavirus exposures, their efforts were being made to avoid entire classrooms being quarantined. Health Minister Kim Wilson confirmed that the definitions for close and casual contacts have been redefined to allow more kids to stay in school.
It's really important for members of the public to appreciate that a risk assessment is done first before any decisions are made as to who's required to quarantine. But what we're doing is we've redefined effectively what close contact is. So if an individual is a case, a positive case, and persons that are within their close proximity for over 15 minutes in a 24-hour period would be defined as close. If they're all on the other side of the classroom and the risk assessment has established that that child sat right in their seat, and the persons that are in close proximity within 6 feet, those persons would be identified as close contacts and would require the public health measures, whereas somebody that's sitting on the other side of the classroom would not be defined as a close contact. They would be defined as a casual contact, and being able to return to school, but of course continue to follow the public health measures of wearing a mask, hand hygiene, and the like.
Health officials in Guyana say the practice of forging COVID-19 vaccination booklets is dwindling. Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, says several people have found themselves on the wrong side of the law already.
Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony says that his ministry has recorded approximately 10 COVID-19 booklet forgery cases to date. Minister Anthony revealed that criminal arrest has served as a deterrent to this crime.
I'm not aware that we have found new cases, but I think with the swift police action, it has acted as a deterrent. I know several people were charged. And if the general public are aware of persons who have been forging these cards, they should inform the police so that actions can be taken.
Turning his attention to diabetes, Minister Anthony continues to assure the public that the condition is not an excuse for not taking a COVID-19 vaccine.
I think there's a popular myth that is going around that if you are diabetic, then you cannot get the vaccine, and that's not so. If you are diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have a heart condition, if you have a kidney condition, these are the reasons why you should go.
Let's go to Trinidad and Tobago now, where the vaccination status of persons who require to receive the additional third dose of a COVID-19 vaccine will not be affected. This clarification came from the Ministry of Health there, following several questions posed by members of the public on the issue upon the announcement that some persons are advised to get a booster shot. We get more in this TTT Live report.
According to a ministry press release, a fully vaccinated person is defined as one who has received the required number of doses of a WHO-approved COVID-19 vaccine, and 2 weeks have passed since the final recommended vaccine dose was received. As such, those who previously fit into the category of fully vaccinated before the introduction of the additional primary dose will continue to be considered fully vaccinated at this time.
The Australian government has ordered a nationwide lockdown for people who have not been vaccinated against COVID-19, a measure aimed at slowing the fast spread of the disease in that country.
Anyone older than 12 will only be allowed to leave their homes to get jabbed or for essential shopping. There are concerns that rising coronavirus cases are putting the health system at risk of collapse. Police will be checking to ensure that people have been vaccinated.
We have decided today that from Monday there will be a lockdown for unvaccinated people in Austria. This means restrictions on going out for everyone over the age of 12. Private living quarters may only be left in exceptional cases. Access limited to vaccinated people or people who have recovered from COVID-19 will apply in the retail sector, and unvaccinated people will no longer be allowed to visit shops that offer more than basic supplies, like clothing shops, sports shops, or furniture shops.
Paul Brennan is in London. He says Austria's Chancellor hopes to curb a potential winter surge.
He's clearly determined to get a grip of the situation in Austria. There will be on-the-spot checks by police, essentially. If you are outside of your house and you get stopped by the police, you will have to show either an essential reason for you to be out of the house if you're unvaccinated, or you'll be having to show a vaccine kind of passport, some kind of record that you've had the 2 coronavirus inoculations that you would have had to be fully vaccinated. The Chancellor is clearly frustrated. Australia has a big problem. It has 3 times the infection rate of neighbouring Germany. On Saturday, it had an all-time high of daily infections of 13,000, and that's of a population of just 8 million, well, nearly 9 million, actually. And the problem is that the take-up of vaccinations in Austria has been stubbornly low. They rank about 17th in Europe. About 63.4% of the population is fully vaccinated, and many Austrians are sort of vaccine skeptical. A position, I have to say, that's been fanned and encouraged by the far-right Freedom Party, which is the 3rd biggest party in Austria's parliament. But the Chancellor is having none of it. Faced with a winter where people are going to be huddling indoors more, and in Europe where the infection rates are going up, the Chancellor is saying that, look, time is to take urgent action.
The vaccine push continues in Austria and in many countries across the world, including here in Barbados. Time to come back home and hear how Pearson will be taking you through the Monday edition of Morning Barbados. Pearson, it's over to you.
Thank you, Shane. When you come join me at 6:30 this morning for Morning Barbados, we'll be taking a look at the just concluded COP26. In our conversations on CARICOM, we asked the question, what's in it for Barbados, that whimper of an agreement? And how is Barbados also helping to reshape the international perspective on financing as it relates to small states like ours? We meet this morning the regional governor of the Optimist International Club, the Caribbean District, and they've just been launched on a new campaign. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we meet the woman behind the book, Heart's Cry, which is a 40-day devotional. What's in it for you? What's in it for me? A whole host of questions and much more when you join me at 6:30 for Morning Barbados. It's back to you, Shane.
Thank you, Pearson. The Ministry of Education working on a roadmap for back to school in person. We'll take a break and come back with more details. The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training has outlined a roadmap for the possible return of students to the classroom when the next school term begins in the new year. Shane Jones reports.
It's been quite some time since the island's students have been receiving their lessons in class, and the online setting, which was once being called the new normal, feels like, well, just the normal. For the better part of the last year or so, students, teachers, and parents have been innovating to incorporate the very demanding e-learning into their lives. However, this could all change very soon. Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer-Bradshaw told me while a return to the classroom is on the cards for the second term, it is not set in stone.
The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training is preparing for a face-to-face start of school for Term 2 of the academic year 2021 to 2022. However, this is contingent on the status of the COVID-19 situation in our country. The roadmap for the safe reopening of schools continues to be a work in progress.
The Chief Education Officer outlined the options on the table.
The roadmap outlines plans and procedures for face-to-face, blended, and online approaches to school. We have had preliminary discussions with our stakeholders as they relate to the roadmap. However, consultations are ongoing.
The second term starts in January. Shane Jones, CBC News.
The Bridgetown Port is taking the necessary steps to become more efficient. It will make another major move in that direction in the coming weeks when the facilitation of Maritime Traffic Bill is debated in Parliament. This from Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy Minister Kirk Humphrey. He says over the last 2 years, the port has improved the processes relating to clearing cargo, including becoming more technologically savvy, all in an effort to move things along faster.
And when we pass that bill into law and it becomes an act, it will allow us to, again, become more efficient, whereby ships coming in to our port, instead of having to enter the documents a number of times, will only have to enter it once. And it will be sent to JRCC, it will be sent to customs, it will be sent to immigration, the port will get their information. Currently, the ships have to do the same information over and over and over. They don't like it. It's very inefficient. And when that is passed, then that will increase the efficiency again, efficiency gains.
The minister was speaking at a ceremony for Maritime Day Awards where 2 Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute technology students were awarded. Isaiah Cozier was named the most outstanding student in maritime operations, while John Bernard Yearwood completed the diploma in marine diesel engineering. The Barbados Port Incorporated was also recognized for the humanitarian efforts in the repatriation of thousands of crew members and passengers from cruise ships and the consistent provision of port services to Barbadians during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Republican Status Transition Advisory Committee is reiterating the date November 30th will remain as Barbados Independence Day, even as the country moves towards Republican status. Committee member Sulman Bulbulia says it will not be called Republic Day. There will be no name change for Barbados nor its national symbols. His comments came during a service at the St. Paul's Anglican Church yesterday.
The flag, the coat of arms, the pledge, and the national anthem, it will not be changed. There was one slight exception in the national anthem where the words past 300 years occur in this anthem, and there's a discussion ongoing on that. I am not a student of English language, so I wouldn't attempt to get involved, but I know there's a discussion that says, on one hand, if you look at the grammatical form of the words, it can remain. It does not necessarily mean the last 300 years. So there's a discussion on that. What was necessary, or what is necessary change that needs to be made, is where the word royal appears, that will have to be replaced, and where the crown as a word or a symbol is used, then that too shall have to be replaced.
Mr. Bulbulia says Barbados becoming a republic signals the beginning of a renewed commitment to nation building and national transformation. The proposed Charter of Barbados is to be debated in Parliament soon. Mr. Bulbulia is hopeful it will address some of the deficits in the Constitution.
Fundamental rights and freedoms and what it means to be a citizen and what is the role of the state and so on. I hope my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, this morning allows us to have a deeper appreciation of the journey that we are on and the importance of this junction we are at. As I began, I repeat, November 30th, 2021 is not the end. It is the beginning of a new era, an era that all Barbadians must take pride and take ownership. It cannot be for a select few. Any Barbadian now, any young Barbadian, any Barbadian can aspire now to be the head of our state. This is our land, our island. How we treat it, how we nurture it, and how we respect ourselves and others in this beautiful country will determine the kind of republic we become.
Let's go further afield now. Dozens of inmates have been killed in fierce clashes in a prison in Ecuador's largest city. According to preliminary information, 68 inmates have been killed. The brawl was just one of several such incidents in the prison over the past few months.
Dozens of Ecuadorians gathered outside this prison on Saturday, waiting for any news of their family members. There was an overnight riot at the Litoral Penitentiary in the southern city of Guayaquil that began on Friday evening. Information is difficult to come by. They desperately looked through an unofficial list of victims' names that was posted outside the building.
I'm hoping that my son is one of the injured, but we don't know anything because there's no official list from the authorities, only a list that has been leaked, but we don't know anything.
Nothing is known. What the prisoners are saying from inside is that no police or military are controlling it, that they are letting them kill each other in cold blood.
Police are blaming rival gangs for the violence.
These events are due to a territory dispute by criminal gangs inside the prison. At the moment, there are certain pavilions that are without leaders because, this may be surprising to all citizens, but the leaders were released after having served 60% of their sentence.
At the same prison earlier this year, more than 100 inmates were killed in the worst incident of prison violence in recent years.
Sporting news now. Australia have won their first ever men's T20 World Cup title. The Aussies chased down 173 to defeat New Zealand by 8 wickets yesterday in Dubai. An unbeaten 77 off 50 balls by Mitchell Marsh and 53 off 38 by David Warner was the driving force for the win as they finished on 173 for 2 with 7 balls to spare. At the start of the match, New Zealand sent into bat, got up to 172 for 4, led by captain Kane Williamson with a knock of 85 off just 48 balls. Josh Hazelwood snapped up 3 for 16. Here are the highlights. Congrats there goes to the Aussies. Time now for a look at the weather. Temperature on the outside right now is 27.4 degrees Celsius. It's feeling a lot warmer. Already in the 30s, the apparent temperature, and the humidity stands at 74%. We've had some early morning showers, but it's fair right now. The barometric pressure is 10-11 millibars this morning, and those winds are picking up a bit, coming out of the east at 30 kilometers per hour. There will be a low tide this morning at 17 minutes after 7. The high tide will come our way in the afternoon at 29 minutes to 2. There will be another low tide at 12 minutes to 8 tonight. Those seas are moderate in open water. Swells are between 1.5 and 2 meters and steady, but small craft operators and sea bathers are being told to exercise caution. Today we will get a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers here in Barbados. And tonight it will be partly cloudy with a few brief isolated light showers. Over in the Lesser Antilles, it will be fair to occasionally cloudy with a few brief scattered light showers. And tonight, it will be fair to partly cloudy there with a few brief isolated light showers. And here's a quick look at the international weather forecast. That's it for the Monday edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
I say too, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday, the 15th of November, 2021. Would you believe that we're already halfway in the month? I haven't tasted a conky yet. What a shame on me, for sure. But nevertheless, good morning, everyone. We're just 2 weeks away from that big day with all the pomp and ceremony when Barbados swears in and confirms its first president as we go towards becoming a republic. So look forward to that excitement on radio and television here at CBC coming up really, really soon. And this morning, too, we meet a Barbadian young woman who was invited and has accepted to sit on the Forbes Communications Council. What does that mean for her? What does that mean for us in Barbados as well? It is World Diabetes Day. It was yesterday, but this month is World Diabetes Eye Disease Month. And so what are some of the common ocular diseases that would be impacted by diabetes, and what are some of the solutions and options available at Quartz Optical? We'll talk a little bit about that this morning as well. Let's get started by looking back at the just concluded COP26 as we get into our conversations on CARICOM. And for that, we're obviously joined by Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Commichon. Good morning to you, Mr. Commichon.
Good morning, Pearson. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much as usual. Now, listen, over time they came up with what some consider to be a whimper of a deal, which did not necessarily agree to the 1.5% emissions. But it's a deal nonetheless. So what's in that agreement now for Barbados, and what can Barbados do?
Yes, so we now have the Glasgow Climate Pact. Yes, some disappointment, but also a number of encouraging signs. And I wish to make the case here this morning that you can see the hands and influence of CARICOM in general and of Barbados and Prime Minister Mayor Motley in particular, all over those encouraging signs. You know, back on when we celebrated 26th of July this year, I made the point that one of the reasons for Barbados becoming a republic, moving away from the Queen of England as our head of state and substituting our own native head of state is because more and more we are being called upon to play a very important international leadership role on behalf of developing countries, former colonies, and therefore it would look wrong. Barbados is on the international stage representing former colonies and still having, you know, the head of state of our former colonial master as our head. So anyhow, but the point is, if you look at this Glasgow Climate Pact, okay, you made the point, Pearson, that they did not get to the pledges to cut emissions that would deliver 1.5 degrees, that would deliver a climate increase of no more than 1.5 degrees by the end of this century. They did, however, get to 1.8. And they have agreed that by COP27 next year in Egypt, that usually they come with these nationally determined contributions or pledges every 5 years. But they have agreed now that they will come back next year at COP27 in Egypt to further reduce their pledges so as to bring us in line with 1.5. That there's the influence of CARICOM and Prime Minister Motley all over that. You know, people need to be aware that Prime Minister Motley didn't suddenly appear by chance on that opening ceremony. She was specially selected of all the leaders in the world. She was especially selected by the UN and by the organizers of that conference to be placed in that pivotal, that critical spot in the opening ceremony to get the attention of the world. And that is what she did with great excellence and impact. Secondly, adaptation finance. We didn't get the 100 billion per year at this Glasgow conference, but we got a couple of things. One, we got the increase in the percentage of climate finance to go towards adaptation to move up from 25% to 40%. We were asking 50. They came in at 40. Also, we got the agreement that we will achieve the 100 billion per annum by 2023. And we also got a commitment that the developed countries will double their contributions to climate finance from 2025. So, not perfection, but progress. And you can see this was a key. This was a key goal for CARICOM and for Barbados. Compensation for loss and damage. For the first time in one of these conferences of the parties, we got the acknowledgement that countries like the Caribbean countries that suffer catastrophic climate-related events like hurricanes, that a loss and damage mechanism to provide them with financial compensation will be set up, and the details of that mechanism will be worked out at COP27 in Egypt next year. That's number 3. Number 4, the idea of using IMF special drawing rights to beef up climate finance. That idea was proposed by Prime Minister Motley in her opening address, drawing upon the work of Professor Avinash Prasad, her advisor on economic matters. And that has been taken on board, not in the expansive way that PM Motley and Professor Prasad had proposed. They proposed something much more substantial than what the parties were willing to agree upon. But nevertheless, that breakthrough concept that we can use these special drawing rights, these assets that the IMF can create and can be put into a trust fund, and then can be used to generate currency from the major countries of the world to go towards financing projects that will reduce greenhouse emissions. That has been taken on board. And finally, the Glasgow Pact encourages the international financial institutions to use climate vulnerability as a measure to determine whether countries like Barbados and the CARICOM countries like Antigua and Bahamas and so forth, so-called middle income countries, to use climate vulnerability to determine whether these countries should have access to concession and financing. Remember, right now we don't have access to that financing because they use this GDP per capita and say, well, you are middle income countries, you don't need it. So they have finally come to the recognition that even though we may be so-called middle income countries, that we face the climate crisis and we are vulnerable to things like hurricanes and rising sea waters and all the rest of it. So I would say those 5 very important positive developments, the hand of CARICOM, Barbados, Prime Minister Motley, all over there.
So we know from past experience, agreements have been made, agreements have not been kept. So how does CARICOM leverage who we are, and especially as Prime Minister Motley, as you said, is quite pivotal in everything that we've seen come out of this agreement? How can we keep our hands on it so that they do live up to what they have agreed?
Well, one of the important things they did at this COP was to complete the rule book that since the Paris Agreement 6 years ago, that point that you have raised, that yes, you can make these pledges, but what is the mechanism or the framework for accountability, for the UN to keep track, to make sure that countries are actually implementing the pledges? And up to now, that mechanism of rules and regulations had not been in place. So that was finally completed at this COP. So we will now see how it works and if it works well. But there seems to be a new commitment. In the past, the idea was you give countries like 5 years before you review them and all the rest of that. Now there seems to be a greater commitment to keeping an eye on everybody, basically calling for accountability on a year-by-year basis. So the rule book is now in place. By COP27 next year in Egypt, it would have been working for 1 year, and I guess by then we will be able to see how it is going.
You know, I have to look at all sides. The cynic in some of us that would say, oh boy, Barbados is now in the spotlight, look out, something coming. What do you say to that individual to assure them that the efforts of our Prime Minister, the efforts that we are advancing at those regional and international bodies are bearing fruit and will bear fruit for the future?
Well, the first thing I want to bring to the attention of Barbadians is that, look, I've heard some people, our Prime Minister's just parading on the international stage, seemingly not understanding the very serious policy strategy behind all that Barbados and Prime Minister Motley in particular is doing in these international initiatives. The reality is, countries like Barbados and the CARICOM countries, we have really done, coming from where we have come from, our history of colonial domination, of centuries of enslavement, of other countries, Britain in particular, looting and siphoning off our resources for centuries, the fruits of the labor of our people for centuries. We have really done a remarkable job building our nations with our own effort. But the truth is, as remarkable a job as we have done, we can see clear signs that, look, we do need greater access to international resources, including international financial resources, including a more sympathetic understanding of our situation by the international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, etc., to understand that we need more policy space to be able to protect ourselves, to develop our economies. And incidentally, that is actually the reparations message too. Mm-hmm. That is embedded in the reparations message, that there must be a reparative restructuring of this international economic and political order to make more space, more resources available to former colonized and enslaved countries and peoples who have had just to do monumental, almost miraculous efforts of development on their own. And so the recognition is now that, look, much is owed to us, and we must make an effort to get these resources. And so if you look at Barbados hosting UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the major UN agency dealing with issues of trade, finance for development, and Barbados taken over the presidency of UNCTAD for 3 years, it is because we are pursuing that. If you look at Prime Minister Motley taking up the position of chair of the IMF and World Bank Joint Development Committee, and incidentally, her stint as chair ended just last month. Again, it was about getting in that pivotal position to persuade the IMF and the World Bank to to make more resources, financial resources available to countries like Barbados and the CARICOM countries and small island developing states, and to give their governments more policy space to be able, to protect their citizens and develop their economies, to have an understanding of the predicament that we face with the COVID pandemic, the collapse of our tourism industries, all the additional expenses we had to spend on healthcare and building Harrison's isolation facility and vaccination costs, to be more sympathetic and understanding. And so that is our mission. Our mission is really to revamp the international institutions and how they think and how they behave towards countries like Barbados. So that's what it's about. It's not about just getting on the international stage for the sake of getting on the international stage. But having said that, Pearson, bear in mind, climate change is an existential crisis for mankind. This COP might well have been the single most important conference in the history of humankind, bearing in mind what is at stake, the future of our planet. And our Prime Minister was selected to deliver the key message at that conference in the hope that she would gain the attention of the world and wake up the world to this great crisis.
And that she did.
She did.
She did. Ambassador, we have to leave it right there. Clearly, what I love about these sessions is you give us a chance to better understand the workings and the goings on in these high-level areas, but also in very simple things that navigate our lives in the Caribbean as well, as usual. And so I'm looking forward to next week's engagement with you. Thank you so much for joining us again this morning.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Ambassador David Commichon, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. All right, 12 minutes to go to the hour of 7 o'clock. We'll take a break here and we're back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So lest I forget, let me just say good morning to a lovely lady with who I spoke on Friday. Her name is Leila. She watches us every morning. Leila, good morning to you. As always, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Barbados. And to those of you here and everywhere else as well, thank you for coming through, joining us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook streams. Let's turn our attention now to the ongoing work of the Optimist International and specifically the Caribbean District, as we're joined by the governor, the regional governor in John Ross Crooks. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you as well, Mr. Bowen. It is a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for coming through. I hear the accent. Where exactly are you located?
Not sure about the accent, but I'm located in the tropical country of Jamaica, right?
You're good. So I'm right in my thinking, Jamaica. I hear it. You wouldn't hear it, but we hear it. And so now you've taken on the responsibility as the regional governor. What does that mean as regional governor for you?
So, as regional governor, I am responsible for JOY. That's our Junior Optimist International District. It goes under OI, which is Optimist International. And my responsibility really is to ensure that the district works and functions properly, right? So that, our records are up to date, that the district communicates, ensure that projects are done, ensure that, each club is active, and to also give governing advice, communicate with all our clubs, ensure that the mother club, the OIs, the JOYs are communicating, and pretty much just to ensure that in every club, right, I lend a helping hand to ensure that my optimists are well prepared and well suited for the Optimist year.
When you sit in a position of authority, for want of a better expression at the moment, but leadership for sure now, one of the things that people look for is growth. And so, John Ross, what guarantees can you give to the junior optimists in the region about growth and the path forward for the optimists in the region?
That is true. Mr. Bowen, even as you touch on growth, I really have quite a lot of stuff because we actually do plan on opening a few new clubs in Barbados, and we do plan on opening actually a new club entirely in the country of Guyana. It will be a very new initiative because we actually don't have one over there and a new one in the Cayman Islands. Right, so even though this year we are pushing forward to uniting the clubs, we also, of course, express our own selves to making new clubs, making new memberships, making new families of joy.
So talk to us a little bit about the benefits of joining the Junior Optimists for sure.
Oh, come on, man. The benefits of joining the Junior Optimists. I have been an optimist for about 7 years plus and still going on. And I can tell you that one of the benefits of joining Junior Optimists is the mindset that you have, right? It truly brings you through life. As an optimist, I live by the creed. This is the 5th line of the creed. You can always go and search it up, anyone who is listening. It was written by Christian D. Larson. And the 5th line of the creed says to think only the best, to expect only the best. Right? To think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. One of the great things of being an optimist is that you have the opportunity as a service club to give back to your community, give back to your country. And in the Caribbean district, I'm telling you that we even give back to the Caribbean. There are a lot of clubs that actually push their helping hand across the seas and have given back to other nations. So it's definitely beneficial, not just to yourself, but even to our wider community.
So what's the cohort? What are the ages that you're looking for to join the Junior Optimists?
Well, the ages we look for, it's kind of heavily academically based because we have alpha clubs, junior clubs, octagon clubs, and just to sum that up, alpha clubs are pretty much, primary levels, private levels, right after basic education. And then we have our octagon clubs and our junior clubs open to all those from grade 7 even up onto 6th form, right? We recognize every person, every age, because the Optimist Club is a welcoming club. We welcome new members, we welcome active members, and of course we welcome the workers.
What kinds of projects are you embarked on?
So for previous years, or rather I really like to bring forward my projects,
And I can't wait to hear. Yes,
of course, man. So for previous years, we've done quite a few projects. One I can tell you is that our club from John Gray, that's off in Cayman, they actually helped with a prosthetic surgery with one of our students here in Jamaica, right? So, we do stretch forth our hand. We have helped in giving back to several homes. We have helped to give back to several orphanages as well, even to the Salvation Army School for the Blind, and some for the deaf and hard hearing. So as a service club, we help and we give back. We, of course, at times, whenever necessary, we join in with organizations that also sponsor and that also give back to the community. And of course, we always like to ensure that, we stretch forth our hands towards the wider club. So you are there, down there in Barbados, Mr. Bowen, and let me tell you something. I have been speaking into my optimist that I cannot wait for the next year to be given the opportunity to go down and give you guys a visit.
Oh, we can't wait to have you here. You sound as though you're very focused as a young man. So the environment, everyone's focus is on the environment. And I mean, globally, and even in our small little spaces, the work of the Optimist, how can that work in tandem with what everyone wants to achieve, which is a cleaner, greener, and safer climate?
Definitely. So, as an optimist, we have quite a lot of projects over the years, and I'll be pushing for more and for the same this year. We've actually had whitewashing projects to ensure that we take care of our trees. We actually have crossroad projects, we paint along the crossroads. We have had planting of the trees project that was brought about by our IPG, right? Our immediate past governor for the previous Optimist year, where over the entire Caribbean district, we have had a planting of several trees. We'll be continuing continuing with it this year, and OI has actually started with several beach cleanups already. They've planted several trees already. So we are already starting, we are already here, and I'm communicating with my clubs as well because we are planning our own beach cleanup here locally. And we'll be spreading it open to all our zones so that those can attend, right, can help give back to the environment.
So beach cleanup is one of the plans you have. What are some of the other plans that you have on in your pipeline, John Ross, to share with the Optimists there?
Right. So in my pipeline, I'm definitely be moving forward with the planting of the trees because we have a forestry department here in Jamaica. But to be honest, after communicating with them constantly, it's a back and forth thing between, do we understand that the more trees we have is the more or the better it is for our own climate, because of course we do slow down climate change. So we have that drive to ensure that wherever possible, whenever possible, in whichever club possible, we communicate with all the clubs and ensure that, come on, man, get another tree planted. That in a few decades to come, another optimist that comes forward can say, the Optimist Club planted this tree.
That's right.
Right, so we live in our heritage, we live in our mark.
So the tree planting is so critical. There's some youngsters who are watching us this morning who are saying, I actually like what he's saying and I'd want to be a part of the Junior Optimists. How can they do so? How can they join a club anywhere?
Right, so you can join a club just about anywhere. If you are down in primary school, around that age, you can join what we call an alpha club. If you are in high school, you can join what we often call an octagon club or even a junior club, right? And in that regard, Mr. Bowen, you actually have quite a few number of clubs in Barbados that, let me tell you something, have really been active. For one, the Progressive Youth Club, they have really been one of our active junior clubs. You have the Precious Jewel Junior Optimist Club, the Alpha Club of St. Stephen's Primary. We have the Octagon Club of Garrison, the Springer Memorial Junior Optimist Octagon International Club. And we actually quite have, a reasonable few. We have 10 registered onto our roster. We actually have one, St. Ambrose, which is still a club, right? And we have Arthur Smith Primary. So we have clubs for all ages. Junior Optimist Octagon International Club of Lesser Vang. So, we have quite a number of clubs spread across the Caribbean, spread across Barbados. And I implore you, if you don't know, check the website. That's Joy, our Joy website, right? Joy.org.
Yes.
joycaribbean.org. Check the website. You can get in contact with us. You can find out where your club is. It is there, right? You can find out where your club is, which zone it is, and how to join. Join a club, get on with the project with the Caribbean District, and let's start moving forward.
Let's start moving forward. One of the things that we know the Optimists for right here in Barbados is the oratorical competition. We know you well. And we see our young people standing up before the microphone and boldly speaking into that microphone, their thoughts, their ideas on given subjects. How much of that inspired you to be a part of what you do now?
Well, to be honest, I'm actually a previous competitor, right, from the oratorical competition. And it has molded me quite a bit, quite a lot in regards to, being able to be bold, being able to stand in front of a crowd and say that I am deserving of what you are giving, right? And it helps you to realize that, the opportunities are there. And even though not all times you might be granted the highlight on the podium, what happens is that I'm pretty sure that you will become developed. You will definitely increase your own mind to perceive as an optimist. As even though as I have been there throughout the years, I can encourage everyone that go out, seek out the opportunities. As young as you are, participate. Right? I had been participating at a rather young age, so there were other, older youth there. It kind of looks intimidating. But let me tell you, bring forward what you have to bring forward, right? Represent you when you go on that stage. Don't be there all nervous just because of the competition, but keep it in mind that you are representing yourself, you are representing your club, you are representing your district. What you are representing is your own greatness, your own standard. So, when you go up there and realize that you're representing yourself, it no longer becomes an issue.
You're quite right.
It no longer becomes a problem of whether or not you're nervous, but it becomes a problem of I will tell the world why I am an optimist. And that inspired me quite a lot experiencing the workout.
Well, you're already quite an inspiration for so many already this morning. And so I want to thank you for joining us. John Ross Crooks, who's the Regional Governor of Junior Optimist International Caribbean District. I wish you all the best going forward, your projects as a group as well. I look forward really for when you come to Barbados to visit the Optimist Club here, who are within your remit as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Definitely, it was a pleasure being here.
Likewise. It's 7 o'clock in Barbados. Let's take a break here and we're coming back with the news after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Well, as promised, we'll take a look at the news now, and for that, here is Shane Seeley.
Thank you, Pearson. Here's your 7 a.m. headline news. A new report revealing some very disturbing trends. Illegal guns are easily obtained here in Barbados, and there's a lucrative market for the supply of these firearms on the island. The research done by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, according to Director Cheryl Willoughby, is a preliminary report on the nature of gun violence in Barbados.
This is one of the research projects that we would have done over the past 2 years or so, where we examine not only gun-related incidents of crime, but also we looked at homicides that were perpetrated as a result of gun violence. And what we found was that, as you rightly said, Shane, guns are easily available in our communities. We found that most of the perpetrators are young men between 20 and 29 years old, as well as the victims of these gun-related murders.
The CJRPU director gave the details last night on the People's Business, speaking on the topic, fighting crime using research. Mrs. Willoughby also highlighted a disturbing trend about the individuals who are the main perpetrators of gun crime.
What we are finding is that the demographics are similar. There are the young people who have left school at an early age without obtaining certification. They have no skills. There are the young people who are experiencing serious problems within their families as it relates to guidance and discipline, etc. And there are young people who were identified from early within the school system who did not receive the necessary interventions that would have turned them away from a life of crime.
Police are meanwhile reporting a reduction in gun crime, but there have still been over 200 gun-related offenses committed for the year so far. Assistant Superintendent Mark White gave his assessment of the current situation on the People's Business.
So far this year, we've had 206 gun-related crimes as compared to 381 last year. So we see that the strategies are working, and we've covered, 49 guns so far and 700 rounds of ammunition. So the interdiction efforts are being improved.
Assistant Superintendent White also revealed that lawmen have removed close to 500 guns and over 9,200 rounds of ammunition off the streets over the last 5 years.
You can look from the year 2016 up to September 2021, and we've been able to recover 483 guns off the streets and 9,246 rounds of ammunition. So there's a clear indication that guns are out there, and we just developed some strategies how to combat it in violence, and we see that it's a very good fruit, and we really again thank the public for giving us the information that we can recover these guns off the streets.
3 more Barbadians have lost their battle with COVID-19. The deceased include an 80-year-old female and an 84-year-old male who passed away on Saturday at the Blackman and Gollop Isolation Facility. A 64-year-old male, meanwhile, passed away yesterday at Harrison Point Isolation Facility. They were all unvaccinated. Their deaths bring to 194 the total number of people who've passed away from COVID-19 so far. Meanwhile, 80 males and 136 females make up the 216 new COVID-19 cases recorded in Barbados on Saturday. The new positives were among the 1,446 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab. Of the new cases, 43 individuals were under the age of 18. The number of people now in isolation facilities across Barbados stands at 975, and those in home isolation number 7,365. And the PSV sector has welcomed the announced changes by the government to the island's curfew times. As of today, the beginning of the curfew hours moves from 9 p.m. to midnight. The Alliance of Owners of Public Transport hopes it redounds to the benefit of players in the sector. The Communications, Information and Marketing Officer, Mark Haynes, says the previous curfew placed further burden on the sector.
Given the fact that persons would be off the road, and therefore it would make no sense for the vehicles to ply their various routes, but we hope that this really continues and that we hope that there's full normality as the government sees it.
And that's our 7 a.m. headline news. I'm Shane Seeley. It's back to you.
Shane, thank you. It's 8 minutes after 7. We'll take a break here and we're back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So 10 and a half minutes they are now after 7 o'clock. Time for you to give me a call on 228-5562 or 228-5563. This question is so simple. So call me now, 228-5562 or 228-5563. If you get this wrong, it's going to be me and you. The question is, it is really quite simple. On what date will Barbados become a parliamentary republic? On what date will Barbados become a parliamentary republic? Tell me now. 228-5562 or 228-5563. On what date will Barbados become a parliamentary republic? Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Wonderful. Good to hear you. How was your weekend?
Very good.
It's November. I haven't yet tasted anything here.
I know.
So what shall you do about it?
Soon.
Oh, okay. Because you remember, I'm holding you to your word. And because
course.
of your word, there you go. I'm that kind of guy because you can hold me to mine, right?
I'm a person to my word.
Fantastic to hear. So are you looking forward to that big day when Barbados becomes a republic?
Somewhat.
Kinda. You're just curious as to what else is happening, right?
Yes.
So having said all of that, tell me the date.
The date is the 30th of November, 2021.
19 what?
2021.
I was so sure you said 19 something. Just wanted to be clear. You're absolutely right. It is November 30th, 2021. You know, there are going to be some, I'm told, and I don't know everything just yet, but there are going to be some huge celebrations ongoing. And while I know a lot of you may not be able to come out, you know, we'll be carrying it right here, right?
Yes.
For sure. Now, if you were tapped to be the president of Barbados, would that have excited you?
If I was
tapped, if you were the one selected to be, would that have excited you? Talk to Mamelda. What if one day you woke up, you heard that you were the president? For real?
If I was the president?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wouldn't that have been
excite me a bit?
Yeah, I know it would have excited you quite a bit, but then eventually you would have done so many glorious things for this island, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes.
I know. What would have been the first thing you think that you'd want to do to effect a change in our island?
What would be the first thing I would want to do? Let me see.
Oh dear. This sounds rather punitive. Let me see.
So many things that I would want to do that and not coming to mind right now.
That's all right. You'll have some time to think about it. But Melda, as usual, congratulations. So wonderful hearing you on a Monday morning. M for Melda, M for Monday. All the best. How was the birthday, by the way?
That seems to be my day.
Yeah, your
Monday.
day. How was the birthday?
Fantastic.
You heard when I said happy birthday to you, right?
I did, of course.
I know you thought I'd forgotten.
I'm always listening to you on mornings, whether I get in or not. I'm always listening, so I heard.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Melda. You stay on the line, all right? We'll take some more details from you. Have a good day. All right, there she goes. Melda is her first name. She's a winner in today's Crumbs question of the day. It is November the 30th, 2021, when Barbados transitions to become a parliamentary republic. We're going to take a break here, and we're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
16.5 minutes after 7 o'clock. Our next guest is quite a complete character. She loves to travel the world. She loves to bike. She loves to walk into bookstores and find those hidden gems between the pages. And at the end of every day, she likes to go to and dive into the ocean just to relax. But she's written a book. Her name is Cherise Wiltshire. Cherise, good morning to you.
Hi, Ferguson. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Having heard all of that capsule into one little space for just a moment in time, that's your life. How does that feel, hearing your life put into those words?
Sounds a lot more interesting than when I'm living it, I think.
The part I left out is that you always have a funny tale to tell your relatives, you know, about something that happened today. And that's the beauty of who you are. You live your life.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful gift. I think sometimes it can be difficult, as we would see in recent times, but I think there's always something beautiful. There's always something that you can look and find humorous, and sometimes sharing that really helps us to make the day for us and for others.
Do you think that requires a certain kind of centering of one's spirit and one's soul, or does one automatically have that within them?
I think it definitely having a foundation of faith helps. So all of us are different people. Some of us more natural in some areas than others. So what I find is, even though, yes, I like telling stories, when I got into my faith, it became more real, it became more tangible. Life became more beautiful and exciting. So I would say faith always helps for everybody, no matter.
So you make me now very, very curious about what it is that you discover in your faith that makes it far more tangible with greater meaning.
Oh yeah, so what I found when I tried the Jesus thing, right? In my earlier years, I found it wasn't as boring as I thought it would be. I think sometimes we have faith as kind of, we sing a couple songs, we say a little rote prayer, and that's pretty much it. That's literally the very surface of faith. Jesus is excited for us. He wants to enjoy life with us. That was God's original intention for us. And we can do that. We can restore back that communion, that relationship, that exciting journey with God. It's there for the taking. We just have to be willing and show up every day to Him.
And you're right, because, you know, when we show up every day to Him, He shows up every day for us and with us. He says, draw closer to me and I will draw close to you. And sometimes we don't quite understand that in our expression of our faith.
Yeah, and I think what we really have to sit in a place of understanding, God wants all of us to be in a place of expectancy, because He's excited. He wants to show up. He wants to reveal to you His love for you. He wants to reveal for you to be in a joyful place. There's so much riches in God, you know, but we have to choose it. We got to get up every day. We got to say, God, I really want you to come into my life and show up and show off, because He wants to.
And it's one of the most easy relationships to have, you know. A lot of times we spend so much time on our earthly relationships and then we get disappointed. With this one, you're not meeting disappointment at all, but it's so easy to have. And that's where your devotional comes into play. Your 40 days, I mean, every month has no more than 31 days. And you had to go write a 40-day devotional. So talk to us about why 40 days? I mean, 40 days and 40 nights. Is that part of the thinking?
I think I started out probably with 30 days because I figured I was going to get 30, but I just kept going. So I kept going with it. And it ended up being 40, right? But I think it's pretty important because a habit kind of takes about 40 days, they say, around that time to really be solidified. So it's really a tool to help you to get into that habit of looking for God to show up, being excited for God to show up, going into that place with God every day and saying, God, what do you want to reveal to me today? You know, that's what devotional is really about, encouraging you and inspiring you to that place.
And that's why I reference the 40 days and the 40 nights, because, you know, we sing about it, we just casually walk over it, not realizing that you take the time to know and to communicate, to put aside who you are, change your habit, change your focus, and then you see the result. Because having gone through that wilderness experience for 40 days and those 40 nights, look at who He came with as. And that's the purpose of your devotional, I suppose. It's called Heart's Cry, a heart's cry. And heart sharing love, but heart cry. I don't understand why those two words come together like that.
Yeah, sure. So for me, I realized I thought the things before I really focused on my faith. I thought the things of the world, right, were going to fill this heart, this hole in my heart, you know. But I still, no matter what I did, I felt empty. There was still this emptiness that just wasn't being filled, right? And I remember one day I came home from a great cruise with my friends. It was fantastic, and I should be happy, but there was still this heaviness, this emptiness in my heart. And I just remember saying out in my bedroom, I said, you know, if this is all there is to life, I don't want it. There's nothing to this. None of these things satisfy me in a real way. And in a fortuitous way, and loving people coming around me and encouraging me in the faith, I was able to fill that void. I was able to fill that place that nothing else seemed to satisfy, right? So then that's why I wrote the book, because I really want people to know, look, that emptiness you're feeling, that's a God hole in you that only God can fill, you know? And the book is a tool to help you to see that in a real way, and to inspire you, and to show you a little bit of reminders and guide you on that journey. And each devotional has a prayer at the end, because I think sometimes we sit down and we're like, okay, what do I say? It kind of helps you to get started.
Yes, you're right. Again, it's relationships. Faith requires a relationship. And you know, just yesterday I was talking to a young mother, and she was saying to me, you know, even though she was giving birth to her baby, she kept thinking, but I missed something. I missed my other child. And can you imagine where Jehovah God sits right now? All he says, I miss my children. I wish they had that relationship with me. And your devotional helps guide us back to that relationship that you're talking about. And then the joy that comes when those two come together. And that's what we're trying to achieve here with the 40-day devotional. So it's a very practical way of one finding one's faith and finding one's foot back to. So break down how the devotionals work. Is it themed, or is it just by happenstance that we go day by day?
No, it's themed. I have broken it into 4 sections. So we start with God, the facets of God, right? His holiness, his greatness, because we have to really start with an appreciation of all that God is, as much as our limited mind can handle, right? So I give you kind of that foundation. And then central, obviously, to our faith is Christ. Who is Christ to God? That is the defining factor of our faith. And then we move on to say, you know, the dimensions of Jesus. Who is Jesus? Jesus is our perfect servant. He shows us how we can serve and find fulfillment in serving. He's our high priest. He's constantly interceding for us before the throne of God, the Bible says. So, you know, you understand all the dimensions of Jesus. And the final section, and the one I really like the most because it's so practical, is who is Jesus to you? How do I allow Jesus to come into my life? How should I expect God to show up in my life? And that's the last chapter, but I think it's the part that people really resonate with, because for the most part, most of us know who God is. For the most part, we know who Jesus is. But I think sometimes we need that encouragement. We need that guide to see that God can be real every single day in your life. If you're going through hard times, he can be your sustainer. If you feel unsure, he could be your peace. You know, there's so much that God has to offer you. So the book is there to really encourage you to go through that journey with him. It's never ending. It's exciting. There's always something new every single day in God. You know, so it's not a boring journey. It's not a boring journey.
And you're right. He shows up all the time. You know, there are many people who are watching it who say, you know, it's heading to payday. I'm down to my last whatever, and then suddenly you're able to survive right through on that last whatever. Who do you think did that, folks? Who did you think did that? He showed up.
Yeah.
And so the devotional guides us through all of this, so we better understand the person with whom we're building this relationship and what he expects of us and how we can be of service to him as well. I love it. Where is the book available, and so that people can today get out there and get a copy?
Sure, it's available at Things Gospel, so you can go there and get a copy. That's easy. And then I also, because a lot of people have been reaching out wanting signed personal copies, so you can actually call 282-2032 to order your own personally signed copy, and I'll give you a word of encouragement as well. And then finally, you can go on my Instagram, Sharice Writes, Facebook, Sharice Writes, You can send a message through there. If you want to just ask for a copy, I will organize it so I can get it delivered to you as well.
Right. Charisse Writes on social, that's where you go to find her. Charisse Writes. And so Charisse has written this book, Heart's Cry, and it's available at Things Gospel, or you can give Charisse a call on 282-2032. 282-2032. Begin the journey towards changing your relationship, your perspective, and having a far more fulfilling relationship. Takes 40 days. Let your heart hear your heart's cry. Reach out for your daily journal with Jesus. Written by Charisse Wiltshire. Charisse Writes is her Instagram handle. Her telephone number is 282-2032. First book and maybe a second one to come, Charisse?
Yes, I have a lot of demands to get started on that.
See? There you go.
Yes, but it will come eventually. Yes.
All right. We're looking forward to when it comes. Charisse, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And all the blessings are yours, I give. And I hope that this really reaches many people and help to change them, because we're in the last days and we want to make sure that we're right in these times. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
You do too. Thank you so much. Charisse Wiltshire herself, Heart's Cry, the book she's written, is available. Get a copy today and walk the journey. 40 days devotional. 28 minutes after 7 o'clock, we're back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
29 minutes after 7 o'clock right now. Our next guest is Suan Tanis. She is a Senior Director, Integrated Communications with the United Nations Foundation. But she is Barbados born, and she has just accepted an invitation to sit with the Forbes Communications Council. She joins us now. Suan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados.
Good to have you. Congratulations. And thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the Forbes Communications Council. Those who are watching this morning will probably remember you from the Caribbean Development Bank and say, yeah, that's Suan. So congratulations and all that. But what is your position? What's your role at the moment? I want to take some time to know you as Senior Director, Integrated Communications with the United Nations Foundation. What does that entail?
Sure. So as Senior Director Integrated Communications, what I basically do is lead a team that manages content across all of our external facing channels. So if you visit our website, which is unfoundation.org, if you visit any of our social media channels, what you see on there is really what I work on. And that includes talking about issues ranging from climate change, gender equality, global health, and really unpacking it and distilling it in a way that people across the world can understand the impact that it has on their daily lives.
Where are you from in Barbados? You were born
Christchurch,
here.
Barbados.
Right. So Christchurch formed you, and where did you go to school?
At Christchurch Girls School. I'm a proud alumna of the Christchurch Girls School right there in Water Street.
Fantastic, because oftentimes where we come from helps to condition how we think, how we see life. But here it is now, you are right over there in the big old United States of America, and you are making a contribution in all of these different ways. What was it within your experience that triggered you into all these different handles, climate change, a whole host of things that you do?
That is, a really great question, and I give credit to my solid educational foundation in Barbados. Christchurch Girls School was phenomenal. They were really, really keen on making sure that all the girls spoke excellent English and new grammar and new punctuation. That's really where my love for language started to grow. And, I always credit that foundation, even when I went on to Harrison College, then to Howard University. It was just so important. I built on that and all of the great teaching that I got from my teachers there. And, to this day, Christchurch Girls holds a special place in my heart because of that. But not only that, I think my family also helped to support me and expose me to experiences that really helped shape my interest in communication and in language. So you're absolutely right, Pearson. What you're exposed to, what you experience as a child really plays a key role. And for me, Barbados was fundamental in shaping a lot of my goals and my ambitions.
I got really excited when I heard you reference your primary school, because oftentimes, and not your secondary school, oftentimes we head for the secondary school, forgetting where we started, where it all started for us, our excitement over education and a whole host of things that we find so interesting today. It started in primary, and I'm glad you referenced them in the way that you have, and surely it is one of those stepping stones towards all of the success that you're reaping today, because there you are now as one of those people who are making a difference. People making a difference where you are. What? And you said to me, you write about those different things. When you were selected, the invitation came to you. I'm said that you were vetted and selected by a review committee based on the depth and diversity of your experience. What do you think they were looking at when they chose you?
Well, when it comes to diversity, I think I check quite a few boxes. I am Black. I am a woman. I'm from a foreign country. I explored communications early on in my career in a foreign market. But not only that, it's just the global perspective of having worked on global issues and understanding what that means, not just for the global north, but for countries like Barbados, for regions like the Caribbean, and bringing that perspective to bear on communications work around the world, I think is critical because not many of us have the platform to share that perspective, or also to look at the issues through the lens of less developed countries.
How do you know your voice is being heard?
Well, interestingly, with this opportunity, I get to write content for Forbes.com. And so that assures me a platform where I can have my voice be heard, but also where I can have those critical messages that are often buried in the global noise surface to audiences who really need to see and hear them.
How did they find you? I'd love to know, because there you are in a sea of people in media and communications. How did they find you?
Well, that's an interesting question. I am still trying to connect all the dots. But I do know that I'm featured on unfoundation.org as a senior leader, and perhaps that is where they started their research. But whatever they found, they deemed it worthy of an invitation. So I'm truly grateful for that.
All right. Tell you what, so you just hold on right there. We're going to take a break, and I'll come back to find out more about what you're doing now and how this opportunity to operate on the platform that you are with Forbes Communication, how is that? How are you going to leverage that? We'll talk about that right after this break, okay?
Great.
Morning, 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 morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Right, we're talking to Suan Tanis, who is Senior Director Integrated Communications with the United Nations Foundation. She's just been accepted onto the Forbes Communications Council, and we are basking on her achievement thus far. Suan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Now, Scott Gerber, who is the founder of Forbes Councils, he says, you know, he's so happy to have you sit on the council. He says, our mission with Forbes Council is to bring together proven leaders from every industry, creating a curated, social, capital-driven network that helps every member grow professionally and make an even greater impact on the business world. And so that's what you're doing now. You're writing for Forbes.com. So tell us about the articles that you've been able to write so far.
Yeah, so because I was accepted, I think, a month and a half ago, I've been able to write one piece of content so far, and working on another. But the one that I wrote on was actually 5 factors that we often overlook in global marketing and public relations campaigns. And why that was important for me to talk about was because often I have sat at the intersection of global communication and local communication, and where those campaigns sometimes may not live up to the full expectations of local people who people are trying to target. And so I really wrote that from the perspective of someone who has worked not only in North America, but who has worked in the Caribbean. So things like making sure the images that you select for your campaigns are representative of the country that you're targeting. Oftentimes people may Google Caribbean beach and just publish the first photo that they find and say, okay, this is a beach in Jamaica, and maybe it's a beach in Barbados. But things like that that really make a difference in how global communications campaigns land. That's what I lean into, but also touched on the importance of hiring local talent and hiring local expertise when trying to roll out targeted campaigns under a global brand. It is so critical because oftentimes our people have the skills, the knowledge, the understanding of cultural nuances that are oftentimes overlooked. And so that's really the key inspiration for that particular article.
A lot of times it would require a changing of the mindset of business leaders as well, because oftentimes you see digital workers, that's something that they do in social media world, and that's not important. Once we have a social media presence, that's what's most important, but it's much, much more than that. So in this article, you're able to break it down so that people like us in the Caribbean who don't quite get it and see it for what it is.
That is so true, and also so that people who lead on the global scale, who don't necessarily get the regional perspectives, can also get it, and to ensure that there is the shared understanding, meaning, and connection with brands.
So now that you're there and you sit and you look back at us, little 106 square miles, this lovely little Caribbean archipelago on which we sit, what do you think we need to do better so that we are better able to position our identity, so that people know exactly who we are, where we are, what we offer, and so that we stand out as unique and different?
Well, having leaders with a voice in global forums, so important. I think earlier on the show you had Ambassador Kamisham, who's talking about Prime Minister Motley's work on the global stage, particularly around COP26. We need more of that. And when we get those opportunities, we ought to seize them and use those platforms to really share more about our identity, the nuances of our culture, and what that means, not just for us, but also what it means for the world and what we can teach our peers globally about not just our existence, but the value that we can also bring to those spaces. Because I think oftentimes coming from, a country so small, we tend to think that maybe we have nothing of value to bring or very little to bring to the global stage, but our perspectives are important. And our entire nation, I think, has prepared us to perform creditably on a global stage, and we ought to start thinking like that more often.
You're quite right. Earlier you talked about a targeted approach. You kept saying a targeted approach. And we oftentimes think, let's toss it into the air in social media space. It's going to land somewhere. Somebody's going to get it. So how wrong are we when we hold that perspective?
Well, I think yes, somebody might get it if you throw it out there, but we ought to understand more about who it is that we're trying to talk to, who it is that we want to take action when we put a message out there, and really, zoom in on that and roll out our campaigns with that in mind. But, another thing is just thinking more carefully about your business and what makes you special, what makes you unique. I say business, but that could even be, your government operation or your nonprofit. What is it that makes me unique? What am I offering that no one else can? And share that with the world, and the people who are truly interested in that will connect with you in a long lasting way and in a truly authentic way.
You're asking me to look into the mirror and look at myself honestly. So my business, I have to look at it honestly to find whatever it is that is unique. I may be disappointed by what I find, so I have to find therefore now something that makes me relevant. So for that business person today who is saying, I don't want to do that because I'm ashamed perhaps of what I might discover, what do you say, words of encouragement, so that they do take that leap of faith and find that unique space?
Well, first of all, whatever vision that you had to create the business in the first place, use that as your North Star. Remember why you started, remember who you started it for. But also when the words evade you and when you find that you can't really look in the mirror and find that unique thing about your business, what else do? You ask someone, ask your circle, what is it that makes my business special? Because oftentimes when the words fail us, others will find them for us. And so that's my word of encouragement. And finally, you're doing better than you think. We're often our harshest critics. You are doing better than you think.
That's such a beautiful thing to say this morning. We're doing better than we actually think. Word to ponder, Pearson, for sure. So what do you do for fun, Suan? I mean, you're so involved in your work. And here you are, you're sitting on this council. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? So I love to spend time in the kitchen. I'm actually vegan. So you can find me trying to veganize popular dishes that would typically have meat. Yes, that's a photo of me in the kitchen. But I really do love to bake. I really do love to cook. And that is perhaps where you can find me having the most fun. But also I really enjoy the arts, love singing, love music. My father's a musician. And so if you want to find me in a space where I'm completely at peace and mellowing out, it's definitely with great live music.
It is such a tremendous honor meeting you this morning. Really, to say congratulations to you, Suan Tanis. You've done so very well in your short space of time, and there it is, you're recognized. You're sitting among the best and contributing to a world-renowned platform, Forbes.com. So we can't wait to read more from you, to hear more of you, and to celebrate more about you. Suan Tanis, thank you for joining us this morning. Congratulations.
And thank you for having me. So humbled and so honored by this. Thank you.
You're very welcome indeed. Isn't she just great? And she's a Barbadian. That makes us feel even more proud this morning. We're going to take a break right here. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
14 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock. Yesterday was World Diabetes Day. All month long, Diabetic Eye Care Month. And we are happy to be joined by Quartz Optical. And they've sent to us this morning our optometrist is Shari Edie. Good morning to you, Shari.
Hi, good morning.
How are
good morning,
you doing?
Barbados.
Good to see you again. You took a big jump just now, I was told. She don't understand.
A big jump?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's just an inside joke. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, yeah,
you get
did.
it now.
I
You get it now.
I did.
So Shari, let's talk about this for a second, because you know when people are diagnosed as diabetic, oftentimes they think of their extremities like their hands and their feet, and just not to get cut because you might bleed profusely. All of those kinds of things, and the diet has changed. But they may not necessarily think about what that diabetic condition could do to the eyes. And that's where you come into play. And let's talk a little bit about some of the common situations that would occur to you, conditions that would occur to you as a consequence of diabetes.
Yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of people do not realize that high sugar levels can affect the eyes and how you see. They only think about, as you said, their extremities, whether I'm going to keep my legs or not. But yeah, if you do not continue to monitor your sugar levels, it can have adverse effects on the back of your eyes. So some of the things that we normally see in our practice are like diabetic retinopathy, diabetic macular edema, glaucoma, and cataract.
Now they're going to listen to you and say, all right, Shari, those are all big words. And you're scaring me with those big words. You know, so when you talk about diabetic retinopathy, what do they feel? What do they experience that they can say, yeah, that description sounds like me? Describe what happens in that instance.
Right. Well, oftentimes, if it's in its early stages, people don't recognize that they have diabetic retinopathy. So it's just a complication of having high sugar levels. And in its early stages, the patient, as I said, they're not recognizing any symptoms. So what we see towards the back of the eye is like no bulging of the blood vessels, or sometimes the blood vessels are weak to the point where it starts to leak, like white deposit.
Right. So
if it's in its advanced stages,
Go ahead.
Then that is when you start to recognize changes in your vision. So some people may come and tell us that they have difficulty recognizing faces, things may look a little blurry, they find that colors are not as bright. And when that happens, what we see is, I guess most people will recognize bleeding towards the back of the eyes is what people are normally told when it reaches the advanced stages.
Oh, some damage to the retina. Oh. And so you're saying then everything begins to get a little bit blurry. We're not quite sure what's going on there. How does it physically present? If I looked into the mirror and I have diabetic retinopathy, would I see red eyes, for instance?
No, actually, this is all happening on the inside of the eye. So it's not that you look in the mirror and you're able to see that this is what is going on.
Wow. So now, because I'm saying that because it's so important then to be checked for it. It's not something that you can look and see. So therefore you can equate it to. You have to be really checked for it. And often that's because of the rising blood sugar levels. It has a potential to affect our retina in that kind of way, the blood vessels behind the retina. Ooh, that's scary.
That's correct. That
is really, really scary.
So we normally advise those who are diabetic to have their eyes checked on an annual basis, because as we said, sometimes it's happening and you don't know. You know, they may not present with symptoms, or they may just think that, you know, a little bit of blurry vision just means that I need to have my glasses changed.
Yes.
But that's not always the case.
I was coming to that. Either the glasses changed or I need some eye drops. You know, and that's what we generally do. We treat ourselves and we go for the eye drops and plops. We're hoping to clear the eyes. And then we realize that's not happening at all. And that's why the check of it is so critical. Then there's diabetic macular edema. What's happening there? When you diagnose me to have that problem.
The macula is the part of your eye that's responsible for your central and sharp vision and your color vision as well. So what happens is that fluid starts to build up at that point of the eye. So again, I had mentioned blurry vision, people have poor facial recognition. Those things start to happen, but when they have that kind of condition. And again, people present thinking, oh, maybe I just need to change my glasses, but is a little bit more involved than that.
It is said, though, that it also develops in people who already have the retinopathy. So it's almost like an advanced stage. Oh dear. So, but it's not. But it's not life changing to the point where, oh my goodness, you're going to be all dreadful after that. Because there are things that, as an optometrist, we can identify and we can do, right?
Yeah, but as an optometrist, we can screen you for it. But of course, if it's a complicated case that requires treatment, then we refer you to the ophthalmologist. So they're the ones who will take care of treating the condition.
All right. One of those other conditions is cataract. Everybody knows about cataracts. We've heard about cataracts. Go get my cataracts cut. And that can be a complication from diabetes as well.
Yes, it can. But more often than not, it's usually age-related. But with those who have diabetes, we find that it can develop a little earlier than if it were age-related. So what happens is that having high glucose levels in your system can cause fluid to build up in the natural lens of the eye. And that's what we rely on, the clarity of the natural lens of the eye, to be able to see clearly. So when that starts to become cloudy, they always report that they're outside, but things outside of the sun, but things appear dim, bright lights bother them at night, things like that are what would happen.
So what's the condition then when you're saying my peripheral vision is failing? What's the condition there?
That is called, there's a number of things, but one of the things is glaucoma. And that's one of the other things that can present if you're diabetic, particularly neovascular glaucoma. So that is when new vessels start to build up on the drainage system of the eyes. Think of it like a sink. The drain, if the drainage of the sink is clogged, then the fluid can't get through easily. And that's pretty much what glaucoma is. The fluid builds up, the pressures in the eye builds up, and then it starts to affect the nerves towards the back of the eye that helps you to see. And once that starts to happen, the damage is usually irreversible.
Oh dear. You hear that, folks? It's usually irreversible. So what are some of the things that we need to do now
so it's
today?
Important to have your eyes tested.
That is what I'm coming to. Because it's so important because the knowledge empowers you, and in being empowered, you can deal with it much sooner and much earlier. How regularly should we have then our eyes checked with you, Sherry, at Quartz Optical, so that we can arrest these situations before they become inoperable?
Yeah, so as a diabetic patient, really you should have your eyes tested annually. If we see something that requires more frequent visits, then that will happen, but usually annually is fine. So
at least once a year or so. I mean, I go to my ophthalmologist every year. I have to, as a consequence of my health condition. So it is so important. And it's nothing scary. That's the whole point. Because in knowing, you feel so much more empowered. You feel so much better because you know someone is working hand in hand with you because they've identified it and they've shown you some of the solutions. So for those watching this morning, I know Quartz Optical, you're offering, as always, something really delicious and delightful that we can avail ourselves of with your 3 locations. So talk to me, what is Quartz Optical doing so that we arrest diabetic eye care?
Well, we have our ongoing promotions, free eye exams once you're purchasing your frames and lenses with us. Outside of that is $80. Other ongoing is if you purchase 2 pairs of lenses from us, you get 30% off the second pair. Right now, we have an eye candy promotion going on where you spend $789 on your frames and lenses. You have the chance of winning $500 in cash and getting a free pair of polarized sunglasses.
Stop. So Sherry, stop. Don't run past that so fast. We love to hear money. So walk me through that one again. Tell me, when we come to Quartz Optical, how can we get this $500?
Well, if you purchase your frames and lenses with us, and your sale comes up to $799 or more, then you have the chance of winning $500 in cash, or, well, not more, but you will get a free pair of polarized sunglasses as well.
Oh, that's sweet. And
that promotion is going on until the end of this month.
Good, I'm glad you told me that because, payday coming up, so we got to make sure that you have sufficient in there. So this promotion for that will run until the end of month to grab this opportunity to. If you buy your lens and your frames from Quartz Optical, you stand a chance to win $500 plus some sunshades. That's fantastic. What else is Quartz Optical offering?
Well, we have a student program going on. So if you are if you are with University of the West Indies, SJPT, once you come have your eyes tested with us, the examination is $25 per person, and you have a chance of getting discount on your frames and lenses.
So to the tertiary institutions, you have that special on, so you can just book your appointment with anyone, of course, optical. It'll be shown you on the screen. We'll show you before we're done here. Now, because there's lots of screen time for children today, children's eyes are under pressure. What would you advise parents today, and what can Quartz Optical, what kinds of advice, and how can Quartz Optical help parents who want to know that their children's eyes are not severely impacted by all of the screen time?
Right, okay. So we always tell everyone start off with an eye examination. That way we know what is going on. Other than that, the same 2020 rule that we would have discussed before, 20-20-20. So every 20 minutes, look away for 20 seconds, that is something about 20 feet away, or something in the distance, not necessarily 20 feet away. And we normally advise you to have some kind of protection from the blue light and the glare that comes off of the digital screen, and that can come in the form of our clarity defense lenses.
Right. So back on track now. For those diabetics today, this is Diabetes Month, and we want you to get your eye care, pay close attention to your eye care. There are 3 locations of Quartz Optical, and they're running a special right now where you can have your eyes examined. You can get to know what it is, how your eye care is going. You can also get involved in all of the many specials. Let's show you again the screen. Of course, your eye candy. You know, this fooled my godson the other day on the weekend, because he thought, wait, they're selling candy there? No. This is not eye candy. That's not what we're talking about. It's a different kind of candy that they're talking about. But of course, you can go to any of the 3 locations, of course, Optical, Sheraton Mall. Call and make an appointment, right, Shari?
That's right, 622-1751.
If you're going to Bridgetown, it's 431-6850, extension 2300. And you can also go to the Quartz Optical at the Sunset Mall in St. James. The number to call, 622-1712. Or you can book your appointment online at quartzoptical.com, quartzoptical.com, all month long, and you stand opportunities to win as well. Of course, it's vitally important as a diabetic that you know what's going on with your eyes, as equally important as it would be for your feet and all of your other joints as well. Shari, thank you so much as always for joining us this morning, and I could only wish you the very best. I hope people bombard you. All right?
Thank you, man.
You're welcome. You do too. Shari Edie is an optometrist with Quartz Optical. Quartz Optical has a special on. Grab that special today. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. For Ruel and Nadia and Andy, there's Christopher, Ryan. Our little crew says good morning to you. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Michael Sobers. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.